Live, it's the Craig Bohl Football Show. KX4 and Gate City Bank present the Craig Bohl Football Show.
North Dakota State put on a defensive performance for the ages in Brookings, South Dakota this past weekend. They keep ownership of the Dakota Marker Trophy, and in the process made it crystal clear the Missouri Valley Football Conference title goes through Fargo. We welcome to the set the head football coach, Craig Bohl, and wins are always special, especially in a rivalry game. But how you won this game was very special. Total domination defensively by the Bison.
Well, you know, South Dakota State's got a very capable offense, and their running back is the leading rusher in FCS football. We knew we had a big challenge. Our guys were up to the task. I thought our players executed a masterful game plan by our defensive coaches. Offense did some things to keep the ball. We had the ball for 40 minutes. Big win. It really puts us in good position for the Valley play.
Well, let's break this down. It was their record crowd, the biggest crowd they've ever had, 16,498. So a great atmosphere out there. Early on, teams just feeling each other out, a 3-and-out, kind of started a trend in the first quarter.
Here you can see good penetration by our defensive line. Linebackers filled. That was a big third down play and forced them in a punting situation.
Some adversity early, a bad snap, then an intentional grounding.
You know what? We're not a typical shotgun team. We're working on it here. Brock made what would appear to be a real smart play, but there was not a receiver in the area. Put us in a deep position. But Ben LeComp has just been a champion all year long. You can see him turning the field over, turning the ball all the way down to inside the 5.
You know, they kind of came out throwing the football early. You kind of expect them to run the football. That's kind of their MO, but they were airing it out.
Well, I think some of it was part of their game plan. We'd been successful defending the run the last 2 times coming into the game, and here you can see Sumner's a good quarterback. They moved the ball some, but we got the ball back.
Initially, the team's just feeling each other out, getting a sense of where the field conditions were at,
Well,
too.
the Jacks are fired up. Their front 7 did a great job early in the game.
They have some receivers. They got some nice height in their receivers. This is their only third down conversion of the day.
It was a nice throw and catch there on third down and long. Typically, we're going to come up with a stop there.
Their tight end, Cam Jones, a lot of people are talking about him, a big kid.
Oh, he's an athletic guy and covers the field well. He's got good hands.
Levon Perry was motivated for this game, wasn't he?
Well, it's good to have Levon back, and he was excited. The last game he played last year was against South Dakota State.
He did get a face mask on that play, though. 10 penalties. We'll talk about that more. But Christian Dudzik makes a big play here in coverage.
Well, nice job of forcing the quarterback out of his comfort zone, and Christian does a nice job swatting the ball away.
I think this was the best Ben LeComp effort of the day. It was a bullet that shot right by the return guy and turned into a 74-yarder.
Well, it really wasn't planned that way, but it's better to be lucky than good sometimes.
Hey, Grant Olson was just fantastic once again.
Well, you know, Grant is a really astute player here. He came up with the inside pressure and the blitz, and we got a sack deep in their territory.
We talk about it every week, but again, the toughness in the run game for Brock Jensen is just something else.
Well, Brock is a 225-pound guy that's not afraid to lower his shoulder. You're not going to see him hook slide. And he did a great job during the course of the game moving the chains with his legs.
Beautiful fade route here.
Well, here, moving the chains, speaking of it, was a great pass to Zach Vra and put us deep in their territory.
3rd and 5, and Ryan Smith has been so good on third down.
Well, good job protecting. Brock stood in the pocket, and Ryan came up with a big catch.
Now Brock inside the 5 runs the option play, and he keeps it himself, and it's 7-0.
Well, this is a page out of the old Nebraska playbook with this sprint option down the line. Quarterback keeper right on the goal line for a touchdown.
Now this is where the defense really started to get cranked up, wasn't it?
Well, our guys, different teams feed off of different things, and our guys are certainly excited. We had the lead here. We felt like we could just keep on hammering South Dakota State with our front 7.
No Ryan Drevlo, but the other guys on the defensive front played very well.
Well, we've got a lot of depth in the defensive line. It will be great to have Ryan back this next week.
3rd and 5, Brock gets 7 here.
You know, this is another case of Brock really being a champion, finding a way to move the chains. To be able to have an offense that has 40 minutes of possession is, boy, that's great.
I like his intensity, too. At the end of this run, he really shows it, but just tremendous effort.
Well, here's a 3-man rush. There's not going to be a lot of places to throw. He does a great job pulling the ball down and got the first down.
Sam O'Jury and John Crockett, that 2-headed monster, just outstanding. This off tackle.
Good job of blocking by our fullback out there, and Sam coming up and moving the chains again.
Thought maybe some points before half here, but the 2-minute drill does not happen. So we go into halftime 7-0. This is one of the plays right before half there, but it's 7-0 as we head to the break here. And, you know, teams feeling each other out. Brock Jensen had a nice first half. The Jacks 1 for 6 on 3rd down. And Grant Olson already had 6 tackles and a sack. On the hot seat this week is Sam Ojuri, who went over 100 yards. Early morning guy or a night owl?
I'm a little bit of both, but I'd go more towards the night owl.
Okay. What's the best TV show of all time?
I would have to go Friday Night Lights. I like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Do you like to go dancing on a date?
Yeah, I can get a little groovy.
Facebook or Twitter?
I had to go with Twitter.
Okay. Would you rather go to the theater or rent a movie?
I'd rent a movie, definitely.
If you could have any job other than football, what would it be?
I would be a doctor. My dad wanted me to be a doctor, and I chose to play football. It's kind of hard to do both, so.
You ever look at who is calling and let it go to voicemail?
Yes, I'm guilty.
Would you ever skydive or bungee jump? Are you scared of heights at all?
I think that'd be a pretty cool thrill, so yeah, I would.
You prefer talking or listening?
I'm more of a listener.
Okay. Favorite thing about Coach Bohl?
I swear you can see the future. I don't know.
How do you want Bison fans to remember you?
Just one of the most exciting Bison, you know, ever to be part of the school.
Well, Coach, it's 7-0 at halftime. You're in a dogfight. You kind of expected that, though.
We certainly did, but the good news was we were playing hard. We were not playing as well as what we could play. Our players knew it, coaches knew it, made some adjustments, maintained our poise and composure, 30 minutes to get the rock back.
You know, as we roll the second half here, there was some adversity early on in the second half in this football game. Brock Jensen did throw an early interception here in the second half.
Well, you know what? It's difficult as a quarterback sometimes. You see the field, and Brock threw the ball here. You can see the secondary guy came up with a good break and really did a nice job maintaining his body position to come up with the interception.
Tremendous job by the defense, though. They bowed their neck, forced a 3-and-out.
Well, with where the ball was at initially on the 50-yard line, and then we moved them back and came up with a couple sacks. Great job, and I think that's had a telling tale on how the game was going to turn out.
You know what? Everything wasn't all roses on offense yet, was it? It was still tough out there.
Yeah, we were just missing a couple of our balls, a couple of our passes, and then weren't quite getting the yardage we wanted with the running game.
Now again, Ben LeCompte won the field position for you. He pins him at the 9, nowhere to go for Zinner.
You can see a great job by our defense here. Gap control, playing disciplined Bison football. A lot of people around the football.
Really ate this screen for lunch here.
Well, good job of reading the screen, and our guys were positioned well.
This is where you started to wear them out, and that's what you were hoping for, to wear them out as the course of the game went on.
Well, we knew that we've got a really capable offensive line, and sooner or later we're going to get man-on-man. You can see the line of scrimmage begin to change. Their pad level's high. Here, Brock does a nice job throwing the ball. We thought we had a completion here. Zach's got a great jumping ability, but one guy called the touchdown. The other guy said he was bobbling the football, so no touchdown.
And you were in field goal range here, but they do sack you to knock you out of field goal range.
Yeah, that was disappointing, and you know, good job by South Dakota State.
You know, is the secret against a really good running team like South Dakota State just gang tackling, which we see right here?
Well, secret is being disciplined and having a lot of people around it, which is going to equate to a lot of gang tackling.
Now, great coverage downfield. It wasn't all about stopping the run on this day for that Bison defense. I thought the corners played very well also.
Well, you know, a whole key to allowing us to do some of the things that we can do up front is our corner play. Both CJ and Marcus had a good game.
You know, SDSU did have 3 sacks in this ball game. They were getting some pressure.
You know what, and we were disappointed in that. We feel like we need to protect the quarterback better.
NDSU, however, on the flip side, as we move to the fourth quarter now, had 7 sacks. Grant Olson had 2 of those, and constant pressure, especially in the fourth quarter.
Well, once the game started to change and they felt like they had abandoned the running game, well, that just makes them one-dimensional. That's what a defense strives to do. And here you can see us getting the ball back, opening up holes. John Crockett continues to run. Now we feel like we got blood in the water. We sense that we can break their will.
There was really no other way to put this drive. John Crockett really smashed it down their throat the whole drive.
Well, good job of running by John, and really good surge by our offensive line and fullback there, Grothman.
Now the touchdown makes it 13, but you do miss the extra point here.
Well, disappointed here. We've got to clean this up. Some penetration, a low kick. You know, it certainly took some momentum away, because now you were at you're going to have a chance to go up by 2 scores. Really, they could win the game with 2 touchdowns.
A credible run coverage, again, minus 32 yards rushing, but again, it wasn't all about that. There was great coverage. That was a good play there, and another one here out in the flats.
Chris Kleiman doing a great job mixing up different pressures and blitzes, keeping the quarterback out of his comfort zone.
Play of the game right here. This really broke their back.
Oh, Brock does a great job improvising. You know, just a will to move the chains and being a great competitor. That's Brock Jensen to a T.
Now, Sam Ojuri went over 100 yards. He got a big chunk right here, just breaking ankles in the hole. Incredible moves.
You can tell Sam's a very talented player. We feel really good about our running backs, Jeremy.
Now inside the red zone here, again, very efficient with that option play.
Well, good job of Brent Vegan dialing them up. We saw how they were going to be lined up. Brock does a nice job. When you have your quarterback walk in standing up, that's a good thing.
A lot of Bison fans down there, wasn't there?
It was great to see all our fans down there in Brookings.
We're just wrapping it up with an exclamation point here. 3 consecutive sacks to really finish off the Jacks.
Well, you know, I know our defensive coaches were excited about a shutout as well as our players. And to hold them to, I don't know, to -4 rushing or something like that, it was an unbelievable number.
It really was. And there's the Bison players celebrating a shutout, the 2nd consecutive shutout. That's the first time that's happened in the NDSU program since 1987. Brock Jensen, 10 of 19. Ojuri went for 113. There's the great day by Grant Olson. Zinner, 8 carries for 4 yards a week after going for 200+ against Nebraska. Let's hear what the players had to say after the game.
Well, right now it feels really good. You know what? It was a team effort. It feels good coming down here. It's always tough to win in Brookings, you know, and we knew we were going to get a good game, and our guys stuck together. We fought through some adversity, and we found a way to get it done. The Rock's coming back home to Fargo, and it feels really good.
Obviously, we keep playing them every year, so we're accustomed to playing them. We know what they do, and they know what we do, and it just comes down to executing when you need to execute.
I try not to make it too big of a deal, but yeah, this one's always kind of circled on the calendar. This one and USC both playing against kids I went to, or played against in high school, and yeah, there's some good friends on the other team, but it's just a blast playing these games.
Really good comments. They're very excited about that win, obviously. Time for our Nodak Mutual Insurance Player of the Game. Grant Olson was the ringleader of a dominant defensive performance by NDSU. Grant had 8 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Grant Olson was fired up for this game because it wasn't lost on him that this could have been his last matchup with South Dakota State.
This was my last opportunity to ever play in this game. You know, you can always be a part of it, and you can always come watch in the stands, but there's nothing like actually playing in it. And, you know, that's the great part about college sports, rivalries like this and 2 great teams who respect each other going at it and competing and having a lot of fun. So it's, you know, it's one of those memories we'll always have, and I'm, you know, just very thankful.
Coach, as we break this down a little bit, what was the preparation like throughout the course of the week? Because, as I mentioned, South Dakota State had been putting up big rushing numbers throughout the course of their schedule this year.
Well, the number one thing we always do defensively is stop the run, and that's an easy thing to say, but it's really tough to do. But that starts up front. It starts by everybody being disciplined, and there's a lot of intricacies as far as our keys. I want to say once again, kudos to our defensive coaches coming up with really an excellent game plan. You just don't shut Zenner down like that by chance. And a great effort and very focused football team.
Minus 32 yards rushing for South Dakota State. We'll look at some of the plays that really brought that to fruition. It was just total domination. It was good pressure, no Ryan Drevlo, but there's really no drop-off when you start to rotate players either.
Well, we're fortunate that we've got a lot of depth on the defensive front. But the number one thing, once you can make a team one-dimensional, stop the run, now all of a sudden they have to pass. And that's where those rushing numbers really begin to drop because you start sacking the quarterback.
Let's look at the numbers throughout the course of the season here right now. 2.3 yards a rush. That's one of the numbers that you really look at. 67 yards a game for the opponent. 1 rushing touchdown, 4.2 yards a play, and the list goes on and on. 9 straight scoreless quarters. No points allowed at all in the first or the fourth quarter. That's pretty lofty stuff right there.
Jeremy, offense sells tickets, and we're selling tickets. We got a good defense wins championships. We got to keep that D going.
That's right. And Ryan Drevlo, let's address that situation. He was unavailable, did not travel. He was injured, had concussion symptoms. Do you think he will be back for Northern Iowa?
You know, all indications are such, but we Our medical staff at Sanford Health does a great job, and we're not going to put a player. The player won't go on the field unless he's completely 100% cleared, and we'll hopefully have Ryan back this next week for a big ball game against Northern Iowa.
Yeah, huge success rate also with the running back tandem, John Crockett and Sam O'Jury. Let's break this down a little bit. Their season stats are phenomenal as well. They're different runners, and that gives the offensive staff a real option to go between the two guys throughout the course of a game.
Well, it's always important to have fresh legs out there, and both those two guys feed off of one another. There's some similarities in their size. You know, they're over 200 pounds. But they see the field a little bit different, and that makes it difficult for a defensive player because you get used to a rhythm and a flow of a running back, and now all of a sudden you get a guy in there who sees things differently and his cuts are differently. Tough to defend those two guys.
Well, as we move forward in the Craig Bohl football show today, that leads us to the offensive line. We're going to have a great story on them coming up. A lot of the success for Crockett and O'Jury is because of the big boys up front, and we'll talk with them next. Welcome back to the show. Last year, the Bison lost very little from the roster, but the one loss that got so much attention was Joe Lund at center. The Bison tweaked a few things and have produced a unit that has the makings to be historically good. Through 4 games, there is no doubt who owns the trenches. The Bison offensive line has been dominant. Jamal Spencer has the story.
The Bison offensive line is a group that has lofty expectations placed on it year in and year out. And more often than not, they rise to meet that challenge. But this year, expectations are even higher.
Coach Fuchs, being a former Ram himself, you know, he puts a lot of emphasis on playing like the guys played back in the day and whatnot. So, you know, just the Ram pride thing, kind of like the Bison pride thing, is something that you kind of get adopted into.
Through 3 games, the Rams are playing their best football in years. But it hasn't been easy. Sophomore Josh Colville moved from guard to center this fall. And not only had he never played the position before, but he had to replace the best center in FCS football, departed senior Joe Lund.
You know, Joe started forever at center. I mean, he played that position the entire time he was here. You know, when you put a new guy in there, there's some growing pains with it, but he's you know, every game, every rep he takes, I think he becomes more and more comfortable with it.
He's kind of the glue of the line last year. He really held us together. He's kind of like the quarterback of the offensive line, and I'm just looking to step in and come out, like, make as much of a contribution I can to the team.
Lund won the Remington Award as the best center in FCS football last year, but this year's group of Rams say there's not much of a drop-off with Colville.
He's definitely really stepped into the role, and right now, I mean, you really can't feel, feel the difference between Joe Lund at center and Josh Colville. They're both playing. He's playing just as well as Joe Lund was.
The continuity of the group has helped them surrender just 3 sacks through 3 games and helped the offense average 450 yards per game, numbers that certainly live up to the Rams' standard.
The emphasis that Coach Fuchs and some of the upperclassmen are putting on learning plays and learning schemes and stuff like that, have, you know, it's all been bumped up a little bit, you know, for this year. And I think you can tell that even with some of our younger guys that are getting the job done very well.
Coach, how good are these guys right now?
They're as good as what we've had. Collectively, they're playing really well. Scott's done a great job with them. It's fun to see them interact during the course of a game. They play with a great deal of determination.
Yes, they do. In our Peterson Farm Seed Future Crop of Bison segment, the Bison have an emerging playmaker and redshirt freshman Eric Perkins. Perkins is out of Wisconsin and is seeing action at receiver. And yes, you do have to check numbers sometimes because number 13 plays a lot like number 4. And Perkins is just fine with the comparisons to Ryan Smith.
That was what they talked to me about. My coach Gazer always told me when he was recruiting me, he was like, yeah, I can see you being like the next Ryan Smith and everything like that. And I watched him play in the playoffs, and Ryan Smith's pretty good. I like that comparison.
He has the potential to play like Ryan Smith, but that's a pretty lofty comparison.
Well, it really is. I mean, when you're starting to talk about playing, comparing to Ryan Smith, but we really appreciate Eric's effort. There's another classic case of a guy joining our program without a scholarship that sees himself as a Division I player. He's turning into an excellent contributor.
Well, there's a big football game coming up this week. It's Northern Iowa at Gate City Bank Field at the Fargo Dome. We're going to break it down coming up. Stay with us.
It's time for another game-changing play in history. Presented by Pioneer brand T-Series soybeans. Be a game changer.
See if the Bison can convert here on 4th and less than a yard at the 3. The give will go to a jury. He's got all sorts of room, and he's in for a Bison touchdown. Game over.
Be a game changer. Plant Pioneer brand T-Series soybeans. From DuPont Pioneer.
Another fun play from the matchup with South Dakota State. But as we move on right now, Coach, you have that 24-hour rule. You guys are starting to think about Northern Iowa now.
Well, I can tell you a lot of guys were thinking about Northern Iowa once they even exited the locker room. These are two really good programs. Northern Iowa had been the reigning king for the Missouri Valley Conference for many years. We've had competitive games, spirited games. And we'll expect nothing less in the Fargo Dome. I want to really encourage our fans, show up and let's be loud this week.
Yep.
Your presence in the Dome can really be the 12th man.
Now, Northern Iowa had a big win against McNeese State, and as we look ahead to the coverage of this game, it'll be statewide NBC, FSN North Plus, Fox College Sports. The nation will be watching this game. It's going to be the biggest game in the FCS this week, and they're a good team. They had a tough year last year, but they're back, aren't they?
Well, they certainly are. You know, they came up with an opening win against Iowa State, and that wasn't by fluke. My daughter works at Iowa State, and Northern Iowa came in and just flat beat them. Got an excellent running back, a really good quarterback. They're aggressive on defense. We recruit a lot of the same players. Truly national implications of this football game.
And the atmosphere could be Georgia Southern-like. I think our fans are going to be, and we encourage the fans to be loud, like you mentioned.
I will want to do everything we can, fans. Make sure that when that offensive unit of Northern Iowa comes up, they have a difficult time operating.
Well, thanks again, Coach, and congratulations on that victory. Great job, and it's a big, big week with Northern Iowa coming in, and we'll see you out at Gate City Bank Field at the Fargo Dome. Enjoy it, folks. This is a great time and a fun time for Bison football.